Hi, everyone. Very nice to meet you. I will share my screen right now. While I do this presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A option and ask me questions. I will do my best to go through them in the second phase of the presentation. And I hope we will not spend more than 40 minutes for the presentation right now. I'll start sharing my screen. So I hope you can see it. Today, I want to talk to you about building the next generation of Web3 startups. And it's not just about essentially you becoming just entrepreneurs, but also exploring the opportunities that you have as builders, as software engineers, and as people that might potentially have soft skills that they could offer. Again, thank you so much, Kariera, for having me today. And apologies if you do hear a bit of background noise. I'm in a hotel after Istanbul Blockchain Week, so it's a bit tricky. Today's agenda, obviously, I would like to introduce myself a bit, kind of run you through the open source protocols, such as Bitcoin, Lightning, smart contract-based protocols like Ethereum and Solana. We'll talk a bit about gamification-based systems and loyalty programs, just so you can understand, especially for Web3, where this all fits in. Digital economies and digital assets, we're going to just briefly go through it. There's a lot of information out there on tokens and NFTs right now, luckily. I would like to talk about the whole idea of building the metaverse, because I do believe this is going to be a massive technological and artistic play for all of us. And obviously, I'll just tap a bit into programming languages and gaming and what the future unfolds. And then we'll have our Q&A session. As I said, if you do have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A, and I will take the questions after I stop sharing my screen in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the talk. Just a bit about myself. I am Roxana, for those of you that didn't know. I'm a technology strategist. I have been in this space for more than 10 years. And I've worked heavily in the digital space. I started as a freelancer in 2008. I built my kind of profile and career from there. I ended up working as a marketer initially, and a data scientist later on. I've been involved very early on with some platforms that you guys may know, Elance, and later on with Upwork. When I joined them as a country representative for Romania in 2012, and I stayed with them until 2018. I have been in the whole Bitcoin and crypto space since 2013 initially, but more actively in the past 7 years. I have built an IQ for the Romanian population and university, worked in different startups across health tech, layer one blockchains. I've helped launch Solana-based products. I have built and launched my own incubator last year, and then that got me into the whole incubation and acceleration space, and venture capital. And I'm currently interim CMO for Metaverses World and an IP, Web3 IP strategist. So a bit of everything. It helps me get a better understanding of where we're going in terms of technology and kind of spot the trends based on the deal flow access that I have, but also, going to conferences, networking, talking to people. So I hope I can inspire you today to look into the future of Web3. And in that sense, something that I do want to emphasize on is that for the first time in history, the creative wave is aligned with the technological advancements of our world. And my prediction is that the jobs of the future, and this is something that a lot of people in the space share, is that the jobs of the future will be reserved for virtual world coders, programmers, artists, and creators alike. If you think about just going back into history, probably the Renaissance didn't really match with the, Industrial Revolution, and there was always a gap between kind of the new waves in terms of art, culture, aesthetics, and then the new waves in terms of technology and advancements. So right now we're at a stage where these two are heavily aligned, and they're happening in the same time, mostly because the digital advancements in the space, and by the space I mean the technological and artistic space, are really have accelerated for the past 10 to 15 years. A bit about the open source protocols in the web of the future. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin Core. That's been around for over 10 years. It's a very rigid programming language that's being built on, which ensures the security and data integrity, right? Because anything you store on a public ledger, on a blockchain is permanent. And basically, if you and I were to download and run the Bitcoin Core node, then we would essentially download a full copy of the ledger itself and all the transactions that have happened on chain there. And that's pretty big. I mean, I think you need about over 500 gigabytes hard disk for storing downloading the full data of the Bitcoin blockchain, and then obviously running the node, syncing the node, and so on with the network. Bitcoin uses proof of work, so I'm pretty sure by now most of people, almost everyone, has heard about Bitcoin. Very interesting that Bitcoin doesn't have privacy by default. Privacy is a very, very dear subject to me, and it's going to tie into the whole digital identities and building our avatar in the metaverse and everything. But it does have pseudonymity, which means that essentially there's no such thing as identity in blockchain in general, in open blockchains, because what matters is that you have this wallet, this address that sends essentially right, you have transactions happening between addresses. So it's a system that doesn't really need to know who you are and where you come from just to enable these kind of transactions and settlements layers. For those of you who don't know what proof of work is and why is it so important, especially for the whole decentralization landscape that we have, and core to the whole idea of open source, and having code that's publicly auditable and that can be forked. Proof of work is a form of cryptographic proof in which one party provides proves to the others that a certain amount of specific computational effort has happened, and verifiers can subsequently confirm this expenditure with minimal effort on their part. So Well, proof of work can only be done through miners that run computational hardware. All of us can run a node, essentially contributing to the security of the network. And the interesting part is for example, if you're a business, running a node of any kind of virtual currency that you use is essentially being able to verify and confirm your own transactions, which is massive in terms of business accounting, transparency and all that. So it's something that a bank does for you, and then running a node of an open source protocol and you accepting that currency means that you don't need to rely on a third party like a bank, right? And then Bitcoin's layer 2s enable privacy, obviously, because I mentioned there's no such thing as default privacy on Bitcoin, enable security and help scaling the network. So you have 3 types of Bitcoin layer 2s, and you have side chains, Lightning and state chains. And side chains haven't really proven themselves. There's been many trials and errors. But Lightning is gaining momentum. So if you're interested in potentially building on Lightning, joining a Vivid developer community, learning the programming languages associated with Lightning, there's definitely a lot of documentation out there, and there's a place for you out there. So that's why I'm kind of insisting on Bitcoin, because you do have these opportunities. Because Lightning has in the past 12 months essentially really skyrocketed. There's new users joining the network every month. There's new channels being open, new contributors, payment applications, and all sorts of bridges and venture arms, which means that there is a investment opportunity there, and there's a demand for developers. And then state chains that are a new type of layer 2 scaling proposition that's researched by Ruben Samson and commercialized by Mercury Wallet. And I'm hoping Dr. Tom from Mercury Wallet will be able to talk a bit about it. But in the way it differentiates is that you can essentially send your private keys, your UTXO, to someone else, and it's done off chain, so it has increased privacy, and it's rather cool, to be fair. Then you have these privacy coins. Just keeping tabs on the time we have. You have these privacy coins such as Monero and Decred. If you do want to understand the complexity around Monero, the cryptography, kind of why there's this privacy component, I do recommend you to read a very nice book that's written for all ages and all technical levels. It's called Mastering Monero, The Future of Private Transactions, and it's written by an open source Italian contributor called Sir Hack. He's also on Twitter if you want to ping him. He's very open to feedback, and I think he's going to do an upgrade to this book, because it's he wrote this a couple of years ago, and there are things in the protocol that have changed as part of any kind of open source project. There are implementations and functionalities that die in time, or they don't make sense. So then the protocol is keep moving forward, and they have new propositions added. Very nice developer community and contributor community that contributes to the network and contributes with ideas and suggestions. And then you have these smart contract platforms for web3 applications. They're widely known. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Ethereum and any kind of EVM, which stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine. Solana, which has a very interesting developer mindshare, and is using Rust. So you can look into that if you're passionate and if you love coding in Rust. And Flow being one of the other blockchains that is out there and kind of gaining traction and momentum. And then you have these stable coins called USDT, USDC, BUSD. This is relevant because the Web3 startups really rely on fiat alternatives, right? So alternatives to traditional banking or to Visa and MasterCard. And a lot of the times they will look at integrating cryptocurrencies, tokens, NFTs, any kind of digital asset that is open to everyone, has low barrier to entry, and doesn't rely on KYC and doesn't rely on these regulations and strict frameworks. In terms of top programming languages in Web3 that are widely used in Web3 based applications, I'm just going to mention the most important ones. Solidity, obviously, that's used in mostly in Ethereum and EVM. Huff, Rust, that is used heavily in Solana, JavaScript, C++, Python, Golang, and more recently, there's been a few layer ones. Layer one is a new blockchain, that's how we just call them layer ones, called Aptos, and the other one called Sui, that build on a new programming language called Move. And I really don't have an opinion about Move at this point. But yeah, I do invite you to explore all of these programming languages and kind of see what excites you, what are the opportunities, and what are the support metrics and the developer communities around it. In terms of, I'm just keep being mindful of the clock here. In terms of digital assets that are very core to Web3, as a movement, you can think of Web3 as an extension of the internet as we know it. Yeah, if Web2 is digitalized, Web3 means we're essentially going towards an empowered user, relying less on private data, essentially the identity being a wallet, and having access to this open source, decentralized tooling and opportunities. And it also ties into the whole virtual world / metaverse play, NFTs, social tokens, and so on. Now, in terms of NFTs, an NFT is called it's a non-fungible token, which is very different from fungible tokens. Are, how to say this in easy terms, a fungible token means that there can exist more than just one, right? So that means I can have, I don't know, a token supply for that currency of, let's say, 100,000 or 100 million tokens, and they're not really indistinguishable between one another. Non-fungible means that essentially it is unique. It's one of a kind. It has a one of a kind cryptographic proof around it, and typically it is accompanied by a visual image, which is stored on a decentralized, or at least fairly decentralized storage, such as IPFS, Arweave. There's another one coming up called Genesis Go, I think. So there's multiple opportunities here. But an NFT is quite unique. And you have that cryptographic proof that really shows the unique metadata around the NFT. Metadata is everything that's invisible to the eye, but visible to the machines and the algorithms. That is why, for example, if you do share a picture without removing the metadata, platforms like Facebook and Instagram can really target you with ads based on your unique metadata that's contained in that image. That is not, you can only, it gets picked up by algorithms and machines, right? But not necessarily by the naked eye. So you do need to remove it. But for NFTs, metadata really helps you understand just how unique that NFT is. What are the characteristics? It can help you understand the interests and the values of that NFT holder. So it really helps you build this entirely new advertising model that you can base based on the NFT holders, their wallets, their profiles, the metadata surrounding it. And think of it as a very effective engine, as opposed to me going on Google and Facebook and trying to run ads, targeting interests that are not really clear, and I don't really know if I'm going to reach that audience. with NFTs, I can essentially backtrack that, and I go directly to that audience that I want. And they're open source, which means that you can just go on any of the token scanners that are out there, Etherscan, SoulScan, etc. You can download the collection document data. So that means the wallets and the number of NFTs that they store and own. So that really helps you retarget those wallets with NFT drops, with free NFTs and so on. It's really cool. Ethereum, some of the most top collections on Ethereum would be CryptoPunks, Bored Apes, Mutant Bored Apes, and other side. And then you have Solana NFTs that are quite hot at the moment, and you can just look up some of them: DGod, Solana Monkey Business, OK Bears, and etc. Flow, that's really taken into the whole sports collectibles and sports fan. Obviously, you can go to the operator and really go deep down the rabbit hole and understand these NFT projects and how they, what they stand for, why do they bring people together, what's the whole psychology around it, and essentially what they offer. And these are one of the reasons why NFTs are really popular now, is because you have this clash of technology and art that really brings people together, and it makes them feel like they're part of the club, like they're part of the tribe, which is really important from the psychological and emotional connection. And they make absolutely no sense in most cases. But as a startup in web3, it's very interesting that you don't need to justify if an NFT has, makes sense or not for the rest of the world, as long as it makes sense for your community and the people that are using those NFTs as access, gift cards, membership status, collectibles, IP, in any way, shape, or form, and just how they relate to the experience. It's very interesting in that sense. In terms of gamification and loyalty programs, and that's why I said it's very, very important to understand these aspects, because when you're building software, when you're part of the product, you think of, you're building an application, you're building a website, you're building a tool that people will use, a service. But very few understand that in this space, in Web3, community is a product. And it is so, so important as a product. It's absolutely mind-blowing how core it is to everything that you do, because you can't have the product exist without having that community. And as I said, this is very, very particular to Web3. It's been mostly accepted, or in the past 10 years, the way of community management. The community management became a skill, became a position. Community manager became a position. And that was because at one point, products being built had to really differentiate themselves from other products being built in the market. And the way to do that was really to tap into your digital consumer, your customer, essentially your community, and understanding, why they like the product, what kind of needs the product serves, and really painting that customer journey map, which I think is very important and often is ignored. And the slide here talks about the business ROI, which is the return on investment from the community perspective. Yes, so you have sales, customer service, customer success, marketing, product, and community and other things. And community is at the core of it, right? So if you want to just go through all of this in the back of your minds, very important for me is the actual product, because you do get feedback. You get suggestions and ideas. You get beta testers, mind share in terms of just people understanding and educating one another, early adoption, and product trust, which is key when you're trying to build something and put it out there. And I hope that based on this image that's not the best looking image, but it does contain everything that I thought was relevant for the topic. You can understand kind of where your skill sets could be used and how, how these skill sets combine, and just give you ideas how complex the whole gamification and loyalty programming is. And that's essentially how do we bring the loyalty programs are around how do we how do we make the community be involved and be part of this whole component here with the business ROI, in terms of just understanding the gamification and how that ties into it. You do have, when you're launching your product and you're working on a product, you have 4 stages of targeting that global audience, right, or your core audience. And one is the acquisition phase. So you all may be familiar with this, when essentially you see companies doing everything they can to acquire new customers and new users into their products. Then you have retention, which means I've acquired a consumer, how do I keep them? You have acquired a user, how do I keep them? And you have a different kind of gamification around that. And then you have the reactivation or reignition, which is I have dormant users that I kind of, let them slip through, and how do I bring them back? How do I make them re-engage with the product? And then you have the loyalization, where the loyalty programs come. And a lot of the Web3 space kind of functions on all 4, but for me, just seeing this transition from Web 2 to Web3, I think that the loyalty programs that are powered by NFTs, which means your most loyal community, your most loyal customers and users of your product, end up getting an NFT that's lifetime available, and they can just use that and really gain benefits, access, really exclusive opportunities. And that really shows just, then essentially they become ambassadors of it, because they identify with the NFT, they identify their avatars, their digital identities with being part of your community. So it's a very, very interesting landscape. And unfortunately, we don't have time to go deep into it, but I really recommend for all of you to just try and explore as much as you can the space. There's a lot of information available out there. And I took this image from City Global Insights. That was one on the World Economic Forum website that talked about kind of like the bigger picture of the metaverse, because I did cover the metaverse and the digital economy opportunity. And I'll just go briefly through the whole metaverse stuff, but digital economies means essentially that you'll have digital currencies interacting with one another, coexisting. You'll have virtual worlds coexisting. You'll have circular economies that, dive and come back and reactivate. You'll have brands, digital consumers, virtual citizens. You have avatar. You have players and gamers. And this is where the future lies. And some of you can see on this image that some of the bigger industries would be public services, tourism, healthcare, marketing, virtual advertising, social commerce, entertainment, recruitment, etc. So this is just paints a broad picture of where we're heading towards. And essentially, you'll essentially become part of this virtual setup where you'll have access to everything. Now, that doesn't mean that the metaverse and the virtual worlds will just be on VR or AR. And there are some companies that made it, that prove the fact that these virtual worlds can essentially just exist on a PC, right? And have immersive graphics and immersive backgrounds and be just as successful. There's a few things that I just wanted to share with you today. So maybe to inspire you into looking into it. But recently, Sony and Kirkby each invested 1 billion in Epic Games to support its metaverse project. So this really tells you that we're at the forefront of a massive leap in terms of everything we knew as a society, and everything we knew about digital and where we're going towards. And this is a very interesting definition of the metaverse. It's by Tim Sweeney. He's a Fortnite CEO, and it says the metaverse is a real-time 3D social medium where people can create and engage in shared experience as equal participants in an open economy with societal impact. And this is very, very relevant, because just thinking about someone, a company building this sort of virtual medium or social real-time 3D medium, just the effort it takes in. You're looking at teams that are 30 plus people that are compartmented into, you know, chief metaverse officers, and then lead 3D designers, and then you have the blockchain developers on the in the background, and then you have, you know, the technologists, and then you have the actual token and NFT designers that really design the experiences. It's massive. So if you ever have the opportunity to just enter into a metaverse company, I would, or a gaming company, I would really suggest you to do it just for the experience. It's absolutely like nothing out there. Sorry.
Hello.
A bit of the gaming and metaverse top platforms. Unreal Engine by Epic Games and Unity are the biggest right now. And kind of this is where the whole metaverse gaming and metaverse play is being built. And in terms of top gaming and metaverse games, obviously we have Fortnite, we have Roblox, Minecraft, and Second Life. There's a reason why I'm not mentioning here web3 metaverses, because really at this point, they're still rather new and they don't have the user volumes to prove themselves at this point. But hopefully things will change in the future. A bit about the opportunity, and then I'll go straight into the Q&A. The content creation is there, right? The skills of the future, content creation of all forms, art, digital, physical, hybrid, IP in terms of intellectual property and trademark, coding and programming, 3D world designers and builders, gaming, soft skills that are associated with anything that has to do with the customer experience and communications, and AI scientists. These are the skills that I would look at if you guys want to understand exactly where the future lies. And obviously I'll just leave here self-code. There are multiple ways to earn money, but only one to build your reputation. So make sure that the projects that you end up developing or that you end up working on are really aligned with your core beliefs, and help you increase your reputation and do not damage it. So be very wary of things that sound too good to be true. Be very wary of over-promising and under-delivering. And, you know, if you don't feel like you could work with someone, then just walk away and find the people you want to work with. When you're starting on this career point, it's very important for you to understand the type of people that you don't want to work with, more than it is the type of people that you want to work with. Now, if you want to connect, before I get into Q&A, we have about 6 minutes left. If you want to connect, first name, last name, yeah, I'm on Twitter and on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to share more. I'm happy to just give you more documentation or guidance. And obviously, I would love to recommend a few jobs websites in crypto and web3, but there's very few, and my recommendation would just be use LinkedIn, because a lot of the recruitment is happening on LinkedIn. Yes, well, I'll stop sharing my screen. Do let me know if there's any questions that you have, anything that is unclear, anything that you'd like to know. I think we have a few minutes left. If not, yeah, if not, I really wish, I wish you all success in everything you're doing. Think of everything as a stepping stone in your career. Don't get too attached to roles. And yeah, would love to see more of you, especially the builders and the enablers, join our space, because we do need more talent, and especially young talent, which is so relevant for Web3, because it's such a new technology and essentially you're building for the younger generations. So yeah, good luck and hope to see you soon. Happy to connect. And yeah, take care.